Good afternoon. It is the appointed hour, or just a little bit past. I'll call to order the November 19th meeting of the Oklahoma City Riverfront Redevelopment Authority. Item 2 is items from chairman. We have a resolution nominating Brian Doherty to serve on the Riverfront Design Committee and requesting that staff forward that nomination to mayor and council. Thank you for offering to do that, Brian. We appreciate it. Need a motion on that? Cast your vote. Passes unanimously. Item 3 is the minutes of the October 22nd meeting. Are there any changes or corrections?
Move approval.
Second.
Cast your vote. Passes unanimously. Item 4 is a consent docket. We have an oil and gas revenue report and a river corridor events update. Any questions? Cast your vote. Passes unanimously. Item 5 are the primary agenda items. Item A is to receive the Oklahoma River Maintenance Projects update. What's going on with the river, Jim?
Afternoon, Chairman, trustees. The contract for this dredging in the sedimentation basin, we finished that work now. We wound up removing 140,000 cubic yards of sediment out of there at a cost of about $2 million. In about mid-January, we're going to lower the western basin and we'll begin dredging operations there to remove that sediment that's interfering with the riverboat operations. As far as our debris removal, we got the report. We removed 14.7 tons of debris out of the western basin and a half a ton of debris out of the eastern basin. On the riverbank stabilization, out there at the West River Trail west of Council, we've selected a consultant for that work, and as soon as we have a preliminary report, we'll be bringing that to you guys for review and approval. Is there any questions?
Can they use the west part of the trail now, or is it totally shut down?
Yes, I believe it is.
Shut down?
Yes.
Thank you.
Due to the erosion and the undercutting of the trail.
Any other question? Motion to receive that? Cast your vote. It passes. Thank you. D is to receive the quarterly Oklahoma River Cruisers update. Jeannie?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and trustees. Hopefully you can see the report. Are they going to bring this? First, to talk about ridership. Ridership was down again for the third quarter. We have had a record number of cancellations. I can show you on this next slide. Canceled trips by month. May and June was due to rain. That brought in a lot of silt, shut us down towards the end of August, most of September. Back in operation for October, but as you can see, the number of canceled trips is more than double what it's ever been since we started in 2008. As Mr. Llewellyn mentioned, the Public Works is working to dredge all of that accumulated silt out of the river. At one point, we could not go past Agnew. So even for our charter service, we had to stay back. And then the Brum Lock had a gate failure, so then we weren't able to. Fortunately, we had 2 boats that were in charter service, so they were already in the Eastern Basin. So we were able to do just excursion runs. We could not do any ferry service at all, and we were able to accomplish some charters and some specialty cruises. It's nice now to be back up almost in full service, and we're looking forward to April when we can begin full service all the way to Meridian again. Charters seem to stay pretty well flat. They're down a little bit so far this year, but we do have the months of November and December yet to report, so we feel like it's going to end up what it normally is, right around close to 80 charters per year. We're hopefully going to break that with some new marketing campaigns for the coming year. We're going to give you an update on the passenger ferry grant program. So the security cameras at the terminal and the vessels were all done over the summer. The terminal upgrades are in redesign right now. Meridian Landing was let out to bid. We're expecting to get those back, I believe it's December 5th, and then for approval on January 3rd. River Park Landing, we hope to begin to award that in January as well. So we're moving forward on all those projects and looking for more with our State of Good Repair grants. We're looking at making some more improvements to the quality of the infrastructure that we have. And that's what I have for you today.
Any questions of Janie? Motion to receive that? Passes. Item C is to receive a presentation on Oklahoma River Trail resurfacing project under the Better Streets, Safer City program.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Clark. I'm with the city's Public Works Department. I appreciate you allowing me to join you today. If you have any questions or comments, please stop me and I'll do my best to provide an answer. Most Oklahoma City residents are probably familiar with the Better Streets, Safer City program. On September 12, 2017, voters approved a $967 million bond initiative, as well as a permanent 1/4 cent sales tax benefiting public safety, and a temporary 1 cent collection to fund various transportation infrastructure projects. The latter two efforts make up the Better Streets, Safer City program. The temporary 1 cent collection started on January 1st, 2018, and will conclude in March of this year. $240 million are projected to be collected in that 27-month period. Based on inquiries to Public Works, many people are under the assumption that the temporary sales tax program addresses only streets. However, the program was approved with a breakdown that directed $168 million to street resurfacing, $24 million to street enhancements, $24 million to sidewalks, $12 million to trails, and $12 million to bicycle infrastructure. The next slide is a graphical information of that, graphical representation of that same information. We are here today because some of the trail work will occur along the Oklahoma River. I would like to introduce Kyle Morris with CEC Corporation. Kyle is the design engineer for the sidewalk and trail portion of the Better Streets, Safer City program, and he will describe the intent of the North and South Oklahoma River Trails projects.
Thank you, Mike. Just wanted to briefly update everybody on kind of what I saw when out there and kind of surveyed the trail after riding it and taking some photos, and kind of the general plan to rehabilitate the Oklahoma River North and South trails. Here's a general overview of the map. I'm sure everybody here is familiar with it, so I'll keep this short, but roughly runs from Meridian on the west to the east all the way to I-35 on the south trail. What I saw when I went out there is that generally it's in pretty good shape. The asphalt is starting to oxidize and weather a little bit. You can see a little more definition between the aggregate. It's getting a little old, but structurally it's in pretty good shape, except for some acute failures we'll go through here in a little bit. This picture here at the of the South Trail near Lincoln Boulevard is pretty emblematic of what most of the trail looks like, in pretty good shape. There's some cracks that need to be repaired, and this is kind of a maintenance thing. Maintaining it now and resurfacing now will help extend the life and keep the structural integrity of the trail intact. Here's another picture of the South Trail near Exchange Avenue. You can see the asphalt, it's pretty gray and old, but structurally in pretty good shape. This will be a good surface to overlay on top of and then restripe. It'll look pretty good after it's been completed. Here's one of the acute failures I was talking about. Kind of comes out of nowhere. I used to ride this trail all the time, and I don't remember any of these particular dips in the trail, but what appears to have happened is over time, it's pretty flat out there. It's an alluvial plain, so there's not a lot of fall from the trail to the river, even though it drained for a long time. I think water started to sit, and after water started to stand, it kind of was a negative feedback loop and continued to sink further and further as the water sat, and more water started to accumulate. And here's a location near the Dell campus on the South Trail, where you can see south water has kind of eaten away and kind of eroded away at the trail. It's sunken down and holds water pretty permanently here. You can see there on the right side of the photo. Cyclists just kind of go around it, and that's what I did. Instances like this, we will promote better drainage to the river, which is where the water is wanting to go, while maintaining the upstream flows across the trail. So in this case, we'll have to raise the trail with aggregate base and some reinforcement base grid for the aggregate base, and also some sediment filter blanket to help fines from getting into the ag base, but it's a little into the weeds there. There's a lot of, I can't go back, can I? There's actually there's a handful of situations just like this throughout the trail. Otherwise, it's generally looking a little old, but structurally sound. Here's one instance that I saw when I went out there that this is just on pretty close to Southwest 15th, east of Meridian, east of all the apartments there off of Meridian, not apartments, hotels. You can see, and I started flipping through some images on Google Earth, and I noticed that the river was starting to slowly make its way into the trail. I don't have a photo of this specific distress, but the weakest point, where it's closest to the river, you can see that the trail started to kind of fall, and kind of the base is kind of getting pushed out. So you can see in this image here, the green line is from April 2010, and these are just rough tracings of Google Earth. You can see it's progressed all the way to the November 2018 aerial, where you can see there on the bottom left side of the image, it's actually getting pretty close to the trail here. So it's progressing, but slowly, and our recommendations are going to be to relocate a section of this trail. Given the nature of how the Oklahoma River is here, it has hard points upstream and downstream from it. So I don't think this is particularly vulnerable, but given enough time, I think it will get into where the trail is currently. So if we relocate it further away, I think that will hopefully indefinitely fix the issue here. Moving on to the Oklahoma River North Trail. This is just west of I-44, and it's kind of a similar thing. I don't recall in years past this particular issue being there, but I think as water kind of sat, it kind of progressively lowered the trail here. So we'll have to do a similar fix to allow water to get by, but also raise the trail so that this is not a continuing problem. This is in the ring, which is just east of I-44. Kind of the same thing, low-lying areas, progressively accumulated water, and led to a failure of the trail. So other than failures like this, the trail is going to be much better off with the resurfacing. Moving on to the Oklahoma River West Trail, or West River Trail. I'm sure you're familiar with this area. This is the bank. Actually, I'm going to kick this back to the mic if that's okay.
As we finished up, we did want to bring you a couple of slides. These obviously are not Better Street, Safer City projects, but it is a situation that has a lot of folks' attention. This is the bank erosion on the portion of the trail that is currently closed. At present, the city has executed a contract with a local engineering firm to provide two recommendations. The first is a solution that would reroute the trail. The second would be a permanent solution that would address the erosion issue. There would be work that would be required with the Corps of Engineers to help provide additional information as far as what that solution might be. But as soon as we have that information, we will bring it back to the authority for consideration. And with that, Kyle and I would try to answer any questions that you might have today.
Any questions?
I do have a question. So on the South Trail, with that erosion, are there opportunities to kind of try to shore up the eroding, especially the ones that are most quickly eroding, and try to stave that off in addition to rerouting the trail?
You're talking about the kind of divot that's getting a little closer?
Yeah.
We can look at that. I think we could access that particular short area with some riprap. We might have funds to cover that. But it's a pretty big to-do to armor a bank, I think. In this particular location, given that it's moving pretty slowly, the cost-effective thing to do, since we have the right-of-way, is just to move the trail in this one area. If you notice, upstream and downstream on the river, those areas are solid, lots of trees, and even some riprap armoring the bank further downstream. So I don't expect it to move very much, given the look of it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Just had a question. We've been pretty involved in the last year on the north side of the river with the tree planting, and every time there was rain underneath the May Bridge, underneath, I think it's the Penn Bridge, and back, there's a significant amount of erosion that's coming down there, and then there will be 6 inches of sand across the trail the following day. Are you going to be able to address any of that?
I can go take a look at it.
I think it would be well worth it, because I don't know that it's going to be a hard fix, but right now that water just runs straight on down there. There's no curbing, there's no way to diffuse it, and I think it would be well worth it. I think there's 3 spots, and then Parks comes down and tries to clean all the sand back off of it and all, but it just keeps eroding. And I think that would be
Pennsylvania
worth
and May Bridge is right.
Huh?
The Pennsylvania and May Bridge?
Yeah, it's right underneath the bridges. You'll see I-44, there might be some there, but for sure at May, and as I recall, Penn, it's just where those bridges are, and you can see how much needs to be addressed.
Sure.
Any other comments, questions? Motion to receive that report?
Second.
Cast your vote. Passed unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item D is to approve the calendar for 2020 for our trust meetings. Any questions, comment? Cast your vote. It passes unanimously. Item E is to recommend the City Council approve a revocable permit with the Arts Council of Oklahoma City for opening night and the opening night finale 5K using various locations, including the Oklahoma City Community Foundation River Trail located on the north side. Need a motion? Cast your vote. It passes unanimously. Item 6 is the claims docket. Any questions?
So moved.
Cast your vote. Passes. Item 7 is additional items. Any comments by staff? Doug, you have anything other than your written report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Doug Copper, Director of Parks and Recreation. Just want to make sure that you noticed that we had the final hearing for your changes to the ordinance and your fee structure for events on the trails. That passed today, so those will go into effect. And you all got your invitation to go visit the Native American Museum on the river tomorrow afternoon. Obviously, if we have a quorum, we need to know if you're going to go so that the city clerk and David can make sure that we get some kind of public comment out that we might have a quorum of the River Redevelopment Authority attending that visit. But just want to make sure that you knew about the stakeholders meeting there and the fact that you'll actually get to see a behind the scenes before anybody else can view of the museum. With that, I'd recommend that you accept my report as written, and I'd be answering any questions if you have them.
I'll just make a side note of one comment in his report that deals with the river parade, and I understand Mr. McAuliffe has made the decision not to have a parade this year.
That is correct, sir.
Yeah, so. Any other questions or comments? Motion to receive that?
Thank you.
Passes unanimously. Any comments by trustees? Any citizens to be heard? I thought Mike was going to talk a little bit about some boathouse, but I don't see him. Anything else?